The dedicated AAA mech genre has drastically declined over the years, but many of these titles still hold up as some of the finest gaming experiences you can have. One of them is 1996's Front Mission Gun Hazard by Squaresoft, a fantastic 2D action RPG by an all-star team including Sakaguchi, Nobuo Uematsu, and Yasunori Mitsuda. This is quite literally a mech game by the same developers of Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI. That alone should make it a classic. Yet there's barely a mention of this game anywhere, and that's because it never got released outside of Japan, and has yet to receive any sort of re-release aside from ROMs and a fan translation. It's an absolute shame, as Gun Hazard is a thoroughly entertaining and story-driven action game. Outside of the title, the setting has little to do with the Front Mission universe, aside being set in the near future where most militaries have adopted large bipedal mechs, dubbed Onezers. You play as a pilot of one, Albert, who in the introductory stages is caught up in a coup by a rogue military commander, Ark, who soon seizes control of the country of Bergen. Despite his best efforts, Albert is forced to flee and join up with a mercenary outfit to hopefully build up enough support to stage a counterattack. Of course, it doesn't stay that simple for long, as the various conflicts you find yourself in are often linked to a powerful and well-armed organisation. Gun Hazard, as you'd imagine with the team behind it, is a very narrative-heavy game with dozens of characters, side stories and agendas that span the world. But more importantly, its themes of war and human nature are the forefront of the story. Albert has often witnessed the terrible atrocities and the financial business of war itself, with more shades of grey than the typical war story. The main characters of Albert and his pilot Brenda are initially self-absorbed, only after paychecks or vengeance, but gradually mature in expressing remorse and finding greater meaning in their fights. The additional side characters picked up have a lot of flavoured dialogue and interesting motivations, allowing them to bounce off each other in amusing ways. It makes the team feel more real and connected. One may get tired of the good Samaritan nature of the characters and the repetition of the anti-war message. However, this was years before Metal Gear Solid or Fallout's influential critiques of warfare, its glorification and manipulation. If anything, it demonstrates how gaming was gradually maturing into a more thoughtful media. Playing Gun Hazard, though, is like an early Armored Core game, or a simplified Mech Warrior title. As a mercenary, there's multiple conflict theaters you're assigned to, after which completing the next story beat occurs. The different countries you fight across are set up in a network of multiple stages that advance the story forward to an eventual boss fight. It's a largely linear point-and-click system. You don't have any choices besides some optional missions where you can rack up extra money and experience. When you select a stage, you can outfit your Onezer with a variety of weapons and equipment. The stores scattered across the game allow you to purchase more gear with the cash you earn via completing stages and defeating enemies. There's additional in-mission one-use items like repair kits, EMPs, and auto-aim devices, which can be very useful during a boss fight. You can also bring an ally to back you up. These guys have their own machines and progressively get better over time. It's really cool seeing you and your favourite character just clear house, though many early allies are soon outclassed by late-game additions. Once in the mission, you traverse the environment, defend or destroy objectives and enemies, fight the occasional boss, or just reach the end of the stage. Levels can greatly vary, like destroying an enemy fleet, exploring facilities and catacombs, often having some twists like avoiding artillery attacks and environmental hazards. A few missions require backtracking to prior stages to interact with a character or collect an item to proceed, so it's not totally linear and definitely adds some flavour. The frequent in-mission cutscenes and dialogue amount to a lot of highly impressive and immersive set pieces and scripted moments that add so much more texture and emotion to the largely vanilla combat. Fighting enemies is satisfying with their large explosions, expansive roster, and differing tactics from long-range sniping to close-quarters engagements. The use of heavy and light units presents a combined arms opposition, forcing you to maneuver quickly and alter tactics on the fly. Destroying enemy units nets both experience and cash. Leveling up increases hit points and allows access to new gear. So avoiding enemies will only stymie your progress, especially during the late game where enemies can rip through armor and become highly aggressive. I strongly recommend using an actual gamepad, as the keyboard doesn't cut it here. Aiming and movement is controlled by the D-pad, with your main and special attacks mapped to the primary face buttons. Your mech can aim in upwards of a dozen or more angles for precise shots and can be upgraded to quickly speed around or briefly fly. It's very similar to Konami's own Cybernator and Metal Warrior games, two other solid mech titles. The control feels appropriately weighty and chunky, adding a further layer of immersion and deliberation to each action. It's less like a giant agile soldier and more like a staggeringly huge tank. You can also exit the Onezer and travel around on foot. This is often needed to clear obstacles or collect items. It's risky though, you're substantially weaker and can easily be knocked over by larger vehicles, which only further demonstrates the raw power of these machines. Weapons are divided between primary and special. While your primary gun has infinite ammo, the special items like homing rockets, deployable turrets, and melee attacks inflict heavy damage, though are limited on ammo. Efficiently utilizing these special weapons can change the course of a fight in a moment and save yourself during a boss fight or when low on health. Now consider you can also upgrade and acquire high level gear as the game progresses. You have a wide range in customizing your machine and perfecting a desired loadout. The UI for this all is near perfect, which is an absolute blessing in how much inventory managing you'll undergo. If there's an issue, is that while many items and weapons are impressive and helpful in theory, they're far too situational and don't fit the gameplay. The shotgun variant is extremely useful as its spread almost guarantees hitting your target and has a really high rate of fire, even in comparison to the assault rifle or beam weaponry. The majority of special weapons are soon outclassed and made totally redundant. If your main weapon can deliver more damage, then what's the point of a weaker tool? This leads to the largest fault in gun hazard. It's very easy. Levels are often short affairs and you can rack up experience and money extremely quickly. By the halfway point, you're soon inundated with cash to blow on the best weapons and upgrades, turning yourself into a 40k machine war god. There are challenges in the numerous boss fights, which are really cool in their size and how you beat them, but most of my deaths were due to environmental hazards or getting caught in the explosions of other enemies, which, somehow, are more deadly than their actual attacks. It's too easy to just spam repair items and abilities, allowing you to tank the harder sections, greatly reducing the challenge. But as a silver lining, it does allow you to enjoy the carnage and amazing presentation. Gun Hazard's pixel art, especially animations, is superb with a wide range of weather, lighting, terrain variations, which are only emphasized with gorgeous backgrounds. It's another argument for why the game would benefit and be easy to re-release on Steam or GOG. Metal Slug and Square's own Final Fantasy re-release has sold millions of copies, so there is a market for retro re-releases. Couple that with a great story and legendary designers, it'd be an easy sell. In my opinion, Gun Hazard deserves the love and appreciation of other games of the era. That probably won't happen, but as of now, it's still simple enough to set it up and get invested into the fine gameplay and story. It's one of the best SNES games, and a true hidden gem, so if you're all interested in retro gaming or RPGs, you will easily find something to love here.